Hello, you lovely people. Niho here from Niho Models and Art. And in this video, we're going to talk about colors. Not color theory, not exactly how to mix them, but about the types of colors are used in my models, the advantages, disadvantages, and what colors generally to get first. Let's start with the colors I used to start. These are the Revell acrylic water-based colors. You can see aqua color, and this is aluminum number 99. Let's start with the obvious thing. What kind of container is this? You have to cut it on both sides with your hobby knife and then twist it open. Take care you don't spill. They have this really nice latch that you can hook into place, and but you should really thoroughly mix the color in the container before you open it or after you open it. I most of the times do before I open, so I just hold the container tightly and shake it for about 30 seconds to about a minute if I haven't used the color in a long time or if it's a fresh color. Sometimes you will find that shaking is not enough, especially when it's a new container, so the color is very full, the container, so you might need to mix it with a toothpick or something else to combine the pigments and the medium again. What is the disadvantages of this? Yes, you can take the color out here, but you can't really mix it very well. So you can't pour it. You can just pour it like that. If you have some of these suction, I don't know what it's called in English, to suck some color out, that's not gonna work because the color is too thick, so most of it will remain inside the vessel you pull it out with. So it's best to just pour a little bit and then adjust. One thing about Revell colors is that they have a very wide spectrum of colors, but these colors aren't very specific. Why you should get Revell colors anyway is because they have some very good base colors that you're going to need from time to time. Like aluminum is really nice for weathering airplanes, and then you have something like fire red, which is just a very bright red. That is good, for example, some backlights of cars or tanks. So very basic colors. I would advise to get like some white, black, red, blue, yellow, so all the basic colors. And the rest of the colors, when it's getting like specific, I would advise to get from Vallejo. I exclusively or almost exclusively use Vallejo model color for the base coats, plural, of my models. These are as well acrylic based watercolors, so they are very easy to work with. They dry rather fast, and once they are dry, they are like permanent. So it's not like when you use oil or enamel colors that can always be like made like can dissolve again when you just use thinner. But nowadays most people use acrylics because they are water based, they're cheap, they're easy to handle, and also important, they are not as toxic as enamel or oil colors. When you're using Vallejo, you will find, or for me, that I use two types of Vallejo paints. The first one is the model color. What we have here is Desert Tan, and the second one is Model Air. So where's the difference between these two? Model Air suggests that it's used for the airbrush. I don't use an airbrush. I have one, but I can't use it. So what this means is these colors are already thinned. so you don't need a thinner medium for them to work with. Because I know I said I won't talk about mixing, but model colors you always have to thin. If you don't do that, you will paint over some very fine details or recesses and they will be gone. So it's better to use like 3 to 4 paint coats on your model that are rather thin than to use just 1 or 2 thick ones. So you keep all the details. So model air, you don't really need to thin. Maybe 1 or 2 drops of thinner will be enough. And model color always needs to be thinned. And if you want to thin the colors, I would suggest use the Vallejo thinner medium. Quick disclaimer, you can use water, sure, but if you use the thinner, it keeps the pigments in the color way more stable. So you get a better, even coat on your model. If you're insisting to use water, which I would never recommend, that's what I used when I started with before I learned about the thinner, I would suggest that you use distilled water, because depending on where you live and you get just tap water or even mineral water, something in the water, minerals or any other additives might react with the color. So that could change how it dries, how the flow of the color is. Yeah? Even the finished paint job. So use medium thinner or at least distilled water. When it comes to thin the colors, for model color from Vallejo and Revell, I would suggest about 25 to 30% dilution. So 7 parts color, 3 parts thinner. Some people online say it should be like milk. Some people suggest to use even 50% thinner. You will have to find that out for yourself, but I figured that the ratio of 7 to 3 works best when you're thinning your colors. Another important thing is, where do you mix these colors? You need a vessel. When I started, and sometimes I still use these shot glasses to mix the color. Problem is, they've got a little recess around the rim inside, so it's very hard to mix them precisely, and some of the color will dry rather quickly. Another thing is, that's just bad for the environment, because when you're painting like a model over the course of a few days, when you do the base coat, then you do like the camo pattern, then you do the details, you can easily use up 10 to 15 of these little containers. So that's not very friendly for the environment. What I suggest you should get is some kind of palette to mix them in. I recently discovered this one. It's from Army Painter, a brand that will show up from time to time in my videos because they got like some very nice brushes and accessories. But what makes this one interesting is it's a very flexible silicone mold. So when you're done painting, you just leave the rest of the paint inside these little holes, and then you can just scratch it out or pop it out if it's more color. So this thing is completely reusable. If you want to get rid of these like little residue, you can just do that with water because it won't really stick to the silicone. Or if you want to give it a deep clean, just use some rubbing alcohol. So this is very important. It also keeps the colors organized, and as you see, if I fumble around with my hands, nothing happens. If I do it here, oh no, color spilled. So that's not good. Get one of these. You can get a plastic palette like you see is used by professional painters, but there it's very hard to remove the color. So these are my suggestions, general suggestions when it comes to color and mixing. And in the next video, we will talk a bit about brushes, how to use them, which ones to get, which brushes like best for which application, and also the most important thing about brushes, it's not how expensive they are, it's about how you take care of them. So thanks for watching, and I see you in the next video. Bye bye.